The border closure between Nigeria and Niger Republic continues to take its toll on lives and livelihood. The border communities are the worst hit, with the situation fast deteriorating as the land borders remain closed. TVC News senior correspondent Femi Akonde tells us the story of a man who has been separated from his family, and the only hope of reuniting with them is when the borders are opened.
Anxious and worried, Bala Mujitaba is on the phone with his wife. She is a teacher living in Niger Republic. Bala works and lives here in Kongolam, a border town between Nigeria and Niger. The ECOWAS imposed sanctions of border closure has now forcefully separated him from the woman he married 5 years ago.
Now it is very hard for me to go and see her because there's immigration officers, police officers, and soldiers here. They get directives from the president that the border is closed now, so we cannot cross the border. There are so many ways for us to enter, but now there's no way. When you go to them, they will not allow you to pass.
This separation, an already bad situation, has been made even worse with the impact of sanctions on the local economy. His business, which enjoys patronage from the bustling cross-border trade between Nigeria and Niger, no longer enjoys patronage.
Before people are coming from Niger and both from Nigeria, because we are doing POS here, so there's no any business which is going on now due to a border closure.
Across the border, inside Niger Republic, it does appear the military coup leaders are getting the support of the local population. They are leveraging on the resentment towards the corruption and mismanagement that characterized the deposed democratic administration of Mohamed Bazoum. Civil society groups are now queuing behind a military junta that truncated constitutional order.
We call on ECOWAS to show restraint and also be more considerate. The consequence of war will be severe, not only in the population in Niger, but in the entire region. We demand that the country should be allowed to govern itself without interference from outside.
We call on people in the country to be calm. We also call for support for the military government. We are confident that it will be in the interest of the country. We demand ECOWAS and the international community to allow the military leaders govern in the interest of the citizens. This is a time of rebirth in our country.
In the latest World Bank data on global poverty, Niger Republic ranks 7th in the top 10 poorest countries in the world, with 80% of its landlocked territory covered by the Sahara and a rapidly growing population dependent upon small-scale agriculture. There has also been recurrent clashes between the army and the Islamic State fighters, an affiliate of Boko Haram, that has displaced thousands of rural dwellers. Back to the border town in Kongolam, a community whose livelihood depends on a thriving trans-border trade. Life goes on here, but not as it used to be. And for Bala Mujitaba, who seems to be sitting idle, the situation cuts deeper. It is a question of how to be reunited with his family and continue with plans to celebrate his son's second birthday.
My plan is to go and bring them back to Nigeria. If this thing continues to happen, we are going to suffer. Even now we are suffering.
ECOWAS is now under increasing pressure to lift these sanctions that is making an already poor population even poorer. But the military coup leaders have remained defiant in the face of threats by the regional bloc to consider the use of force to restore constitutional order. The military coup leaders in Niger Republic are not backing down. They have also started structuring their government by making some critical appointments. Even though they will not admit it, there's also a growing concern about what could be ECOWAS' next line of action. Femi Akonde, TVC News from the Niger-Nigeria border.
Foreign affairs analyst Kelechi Deka joins me now for more of this development. Already people at the border areas are feeling the impact of some of the sanctions by ECOWAS. There are more sanctions, including a recent order to the CBN in Nigeria against individuals and entities relating with the military junta. With a short airspace and large borders that are also not opening, how long can Niger hold it together, being one of the top 10 poorest countries of the world?
Basically, it's quite clear that Niger cannot on its own hold it for longer. But you know, for a country that has been poor for so long, a country that's witnessed a lot of bad governance for over the years and over the decades, coupled with the environmental degradation, the encroaching Sahara Desert that has been pushing people down south, and the insecurity, the Islamic insurgents that's been attacking. The people have been through a lot, and they've also grown that kind of perseverance to also stand in the face of very inclement conditions. So they are not likely to hold it long if you think about how a civilized society is run. But as things are now, the tendency for the government in Niger to run according to the rules is out of the window. They're not going to run according to the rules. They're already puffed up. They're already, you know, on ego trip, you know, trying to prove that they can do it. So they wouldn't mind if the people are suffering. And don't think that the people are likely going to revolt against them. It's not going to happen. You know, so that's the challenge they are now. The ordinary people in Niger are between a rock and a very hard place, and it's going to get tougher. It's people that don't know Niger and people that have not been to Niger that might be making a lot of analysis, but the country is already down and out.
Indeed.
You know, so it's hard for them.
The interesting dynamic is also the fact that the junta has now appointed a prime minister who used to be a representative of the African Development Bank. The countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Guinea have shown support, telling ECOWAS that an attack on Niger is considered an attack on their own countries. Amongst what seems an overwhelming support by majority of citizens of that country, how difficult will it be to restore democracy back to Niger?
Yeah, it's likely going to be quite difficult because there's a kind of there's a kind of wave, you know, along the Sahel region, and people thinking that, you know, democracy has failed, that they let them try this one. But you have also know that, you know, we came from military regimes in the last few decades down to democratic regime. And so a lot of people are likely to follow the majority. But the thing is that the majority are hardly right. And sometimes when you think about the opinion of the majority, you might find out that sometimes the opinion of the majority might be crass ignorance being masqueraded as wisdom. So they look at Burkina Faso itself is struggling. Mali is struggling. Guinea is, I mean, these are all countries that depend on foreign aid to run up to 70% of their national budget.
Indeed.
These are countries that cannot start their own without foreign aid. And these are countries that have not even been able to pay some of their dues, both in ECOWAS
already
and African
the
Union.
foreign aids are expected to do it in the coming days. The U.S. is threatening to stop giving aids if democracy is not restored. But by tomorrow, ECOWAS will be holding yet another extraordinary meeting. It would seem that, you know, a military action might not provide the preferred solution, considering this latest developments. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's not going to provide a solution. But the problem is that ECOWAS has been sleeping. You know, if ECOWAS had acted when the madness started in Mali and Burkina Faso, the people who did it in Niger wouldn't have been that emboldened to take the stand they're taking. So that's why they also need to stand firm.
You mean
there
should have been a military intervention in Mali?
Hello?
Did you mean there should have been a military intervention in Mali?
No, there was military intervention in Mali. ECOWAS was, foot dragging on it. There was military intervention in Guinea. ECOWAS did not stand firm. There was in Burkina Faso. ECOWAS did not, bear its fangs. So that's what emboldened the people in Niger. And that's why all those people now, it's like a kind of a misery, having company. So they're all ganging together to try to show support for what's happening in Niger. So ECOWAS should have to push the sanctions, while the other options are still on the table. But the sanctions alone should be able to achieve a lot.
All right, we'll look forward to what the ECOWAS decision will be tomorrow. Kelechi Deka, Foreign Affairs Analyst, thank you for talking to us this afternoon.
Thank you.